What's up, guys? Welcome back to the WRPF podcast. I'm your host, Alex Uslar. Episode 45, less than 5 weeks till the Ghost Clash. Jimbo Cooper. All right. You threw a curveball at me. Instagram says Jimbo, but searching for Jimbo and open powerlifting, can't find one. Also known as Anthony Cooper, right?
Yep.
So yeah, man, I'm glad to finally meet you. We've been Instagram friends for a while now. I've been trying to get you over to the States to compete here at one of my meets for a while now. And here we are 5 years later since your last competition, ready to hit the platform again.
Yeah, man, it's good to meet you finally. I've known you since what, hybrid days?
Yes, sir. It's been a
Yeah.
minute, and for everyone listening, a lot of people might not know who you are because it's been so long since you competed, right?
Yeah, man. Last comp was what, Slingshot Record Breakers 2019.
And it's funny to think because Slingshot Record Breakers, which was before Reebok Record Breakers, and like that kind of series of meets, like in those days, that was one of like the main pro level meets, right?
Yeah,
Everyone kind of knew about it. But I guarantee you, like over half the audience who listens has no idea what that meet is, right? Because also
yeah.
in the grand scheme
Can't.
of powerlifting, 5 years is so fucking long, and so many meets have come and gone. But
Yeah,
that meet, if you guys don't know what he's referring to, Slingshot Record Breakers, also before was Reebok Record Breakers, was one of the big pro meets that international athletes wanted to come over and compete at, right?
definitely.
Yeah, man. So I want to go through all your history. I want to kind of hear what got you into powerlifting, hear about your short stint of, climbing the ranks of powerlifting, and then find out where the fuck you've been the last 5 years, you know? But first, let's get into who is Jimbo, all right? Who's Jimbo? Who's Anthony? What's your fucking real name? What were you doing before powerlifting, man? And
Uh,
before, if you guys do follow him on Instagram, you'll see he's one handsome motherfucker with some thick style and swag. I mean, in England, there you guys are just much more fashionable than us here in the United States. But you are, I believe, the word is dapper, my friend.
thank you. Yeah, so Jimbo came along when I was like 14, 15. Just kind of caught on at school and then just
It just
stayed.
stuck.
Yeah,
So
just
it's not
stuck.
your middle name. It's not anything. It's just instead of Anthony, someone calls you Jim.
Yeah.
That's funny
It's
because
been
it's
so
like
long now that it's just normal.
what's the weirdest thing to me. I don't know if people in the UK do this, but here in America, if your name is Richard, people call you Dick.
Yeah. Yeah, we have the same.
Why? That is so fucking weird to me, dude. How is a
Yeah.
Richard a fucking dick? And why does someone want to be why does someone willingly want to be
Yeah.
called dick? I don't get it. If someone listening knows the history behind that, it's mind-blowing to me. I remember when I was like 10 years old, we had a neighbor named Richard, and I heard someone calling him Dick, and I'm like, what the fuck? So it's not one of those. Okay, I got it. Jimbo, just a nickname, it stuck.
Yeah, definitely. It was in the kind of days where like everyone was changing their name on Facebook when you first could do it.
Right.
So I just kind of played with it and then it stuck.
So hit me with Facebook. That's funny. 13 at Facebook. For me, when I was 13, it was MySpace. But you're close. How old are you?
29 soon.
Okay, so about the same age, about the same era. So while you're a teenager, you change your identity to Jimbo Cooper. What were you doing athletically? Were you playing sports? Were you doing anything
Uh,
like that?
in school, no, nothing. Just skateboarding. I didn't start training until I was about 18.
Okay, so you and me are the same. Were you probably a pretty skinny, lean guy, or were you a
Yeah,
bigger kid?
yeah, I was only what 70 kilos, which is
Same.
what
We're two retired string beans, ex
yeah,
string beans.
yeah,
I love it. So same as me, pretty much all grade school, not doing really anything athletically, skateboarding, which gives you something, but not a whole lot. It's not like the people in grade school were playing football or something like that, where they're building actual strength. So what was your exposure to the weight room then?
just a lot of tough times at home. So just get out, started going to the gym, and then I originally wanted to do bodybuilding or nothing to do with powerlifting. But I just got so strong so quick, and everyone would constantly tell me like, get into powerlifting, get into powerlifting.
So from that kind of early period, you're 18 years old, find going to the gym as kind of an outlet. You know what bodybuilding was, but did you also know early on what powerlifting was? Like you heard that term? Because for me, it wasn't for a while till I heard what actually powerlifting was.
Yeah, I kind of just got roped into it, went along. I didn't even know how to deadlift like the first comp. I just got there and just done it. So I had like no clue, no equipment, just just kind of showed up.
So take me through those first couple years. You start working out, you're going to the gym, you realize you're stronger than everyone else, right? And then people start throwing kind of that word powerlifting down your throat. At what point was it that it was like you're kind of an outlier as far as strength goes? And what did your training look like?
Um, so my training's actually always just it's always been kind of hybrid between bodybuilding and powerlifting, just because I do have that love of like the bodybuilding training. So I've always kind of done like my heavy compounds and then gone on and still done a lot of hypertrophy work. And it's always been like that until for this prep I've got a coach now. So but I never had a coach up until now.
That's nuts. So 29 now. Again, the 5 year break, which we'll get to that in a second. But according to Open Powerlifting, your first competition is when you were 22. Is that accurate? The first one that's on there?
Yeah.
Okay, so well, that fucking first competition, those results, it's like, I mean, you put up a 471 dots, right? Over 1,700 pound total. It's safe to say you were definitely an outlier with strength in those early years. So I can imagine whatever fucking gym you're going to, they're like, this goddamn Jimbo, he's something else, right? So
Yeah.
before that period of that first competition of 2017, and so you mentioned having Facebook, this, that, and the other. What were you like kind of looking at? You were watching bodybuilders. Were you watching any of like that current state of powerlifting that was going on through that period of 2014, 2015, 2016?
No, literally nothing. I even when I was competing in powerlifting, I didn't really know much about it. I was just kind of doing it, showing up with the people that are kind of like egging me on to do it.
That's interesting, man. Interesting. So there was no like idols, people you're looking at, the Dan Greens, the Eric
uh,
Guthridges. You weren't really
yeah,
watching
so
that.
when it got like into it a bit more and I started hitting big numbers, then I was more into like Ed Cohn.
Yeah, let me try to compare myself, see where I'm at. Oh shit, I'm doing something that some of these guys have done before.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So take me through. You said that first competition, those first couple that year of 2017, your first year competing, you competed 4 times, right? So for someone who didn't even want to do powerlifting, didn't want to compete in powerlifting, 4 competitions within a 6 month span, it's quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's what as soon as I like competed, I just got into it and just and obviously because I was winning, it was like filling my ego a lot more. So I was just competing as much as I could, try and get the exposure and just keep upping the total.
So take me through kind of what the local powerlifting scene or the UK powerlifting scene or what these competitions looked like. Because first competition was in England, but then you're already traveling to Poland, other countries and stuff like that. So what was that like scoping out that scene and deciding where to go to compete?
That was because I was competing in a GPC federation, and I think the first one was a qualifier, and I qualified for the Euros straight away, which was in Poland, and then from there the Worlds was in Czech, was it?
Yeah,
Um, so it just went crazy like straight
it
away.
just snowballed right off the fucking bat. You're like, if I'm
Yeah,
going to go in, I'm going to go all in.
yeah, yeah,
So, I mean, there alone in your first year of competing, first couple months, you break over a 500 pound dots, which at that time it was probably Wilks scoring or whatever else it was. So, in that period, you said at some point you started kind of looking at the Ed Cohens, you started looking at the other people. Where did the kind of the radar of wanting to travel internationally and come over the US? Because then in your second year of competing, 2018, you ended up coming over for your first record breakers, right?
yeah.
Um, and going to Ireland for another competition. So when did that start getting in your head, and how did that start getting in your head?
Um, so I think not sure what year that was, but I started getting into Mark Bell as well on Slingshot because I would use a lot of their equipment, and so we have a thing over here like a fit expo, and Mark Bell was there, and I just told him like straight up like what my numbers were and if I could get a sponsorship. So then like that kind of happened, and then I thought like I've got to be in the States to be more recognized. And I always compared myself to the standards more of the States because in the UK it was, well, for me, first couple comps and I was in the worlds, but the numbers were nothing compared to state comps. So I always kind of wanted to be in that pond rather than this one.
So at this point, that's when you're looking at these other athletes internationally. You've already kind of done it on that GPC world level, which, if people are familiar with that, it's like it's competitive. It's a federation, but it's not like saying, IPF world. You're going to IPF world for your country and this, that, and the other. You're self-funded, you're traveling internationally, but you're not necessarily going up to against the best of the best, right? At that time, it was the current US Opens, the boss of bosses, the record breakers, right?
Yeah,
And my meet came along, the hybrid showdown. So you get connected with Mark Bell, and boom, that set you up then for your first competition here in the US, right?
yeah, yeah. That was the record breakers, the first one.
So take me through that first competition coming over here to the US. Take me through that kind of that experience and how things changed going from how you were competing to competing at that meet.
Um, yeah, it's, it's always on a lot bigger scale, obviously, a lot more nerves and everything, but I was a lot more fearless back then. I feel more nervous now because it's been so long, but because I was competing so regularly, it was kind of just more like normal.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was awesome, like meeting a lot of the big guys and stuff. But I,
It's a, well,
my
at that
focus,
stage, you're also so young in your career. You were so young yourself, right? So it's like you were seeing that constant rate of progress. You knew it's like, okay, I'm just going to put more weight on the bar than I did last time. And chances are it's going to be executed, right?
yeah,
Which is exactly what you did in totaling over 2000.
yeah, yeah. So my goal was always a 2200. I never really thought of it as I want to come and win this comp. I was always just chipping away.
So first record breakers, you go. Then how did you then your next competition after that? You're here on the pro circuit. Boom, it's straight to the US Open, right? Second
Yeah,
to
that
last US Open ever, which was a great year. That was the first year that it got switched from USPA to WRPF. At the fairgrounds with a goddamn bear in a cage, right? Great fucking year. Tons of insane lifters. The slingshot record breakers year you did was good also. It was one of the best final years, but that year the current US Open insanely stacked, right? Yuri Belkin, everyone. So then you jump straight into coming and doing that meet.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy to think back like what I did. Uh, just jumping into this and that. I was just trying to get into everything, get as much exposure as I could. But yeah, that was tough, and that was really hot.
How so?
It's just so hot over there.
Okay.
It killed me.
No shit. Yeah, what time of year was that meet? That meet was in April. Bro, April, it was hot for you, April in California, my friend. Be ready for Miami next month. Our weather's been nice, but Miami's fucking next level, dude. The amount of
Yeah,
humidity that we have you ever been to Florida before?
yeah, yeah.
I don't know what time
It's
of year you
not.
came, but it's a fucking swamp, man. April it's gonna suck. It's gonna suck. So be ready for that. But I do seem to remember that year even though the venue was air conditioned, it was pretty hot because they had like all these back doors open of people coming in and out, and it was getting
Yeah,
pretty hot and sweaty and humid. I do remember that now. But
Yeah, and it was just very stressful. Like I don't know if you remember, but that comp was very much like dominated by the top people. They would take the kind of equipment, and you'd have to kind of just. It was just not as organized as most, unfortunately. And with the
yeah,
heat, it was just horrible.
yeah, I would say that time in powerlifting. In this podcast, I love to reminisce, because it's like I've been around in powerlifting since 2013, 2014, being in all these big comps since 2016, 2017, and getting to see all of them. And that kind of period, I'd really say up until about 2020, post COVID or so, the untested side of powerlifting, it still has it, but back then it had a lot more toxicity, right? And a lot
Yeah,
more
it was a lot
fucking,
more savage.
yeah, it was a lot more savage. It was a lot more like, fuck you, less inviting, less friendships. And I think now that there's so many more people at the top as opposed to before it was just like the small percentage of outliers,
Mm.
but there's so many people catching up to who these other people were before. It's become a better community. But it's funny because I never thought so much of it specifically like that, even though I witnessed it, because I mean I was side by side with one of the people who was the fucking best. So it was ran, in their favor. Um,
Yeah.
but it's cool to see that powerlifting has evolved and has changed, even on the untested side of things. Um, and I feel pretty certain that that won't be the experience again, here at the Ghost Clash because it's evolved. It's evolved in a good way.
Yeah, that's good. I'm looking forward to it. It's kind of got like I'm just doing my first one again now
Yeah.
because it's so long that
Well, it's
yeah,
it's like looking at your open powerlifting history. It's like I said, I always have it open with everyone I'm interviewed, everyone I'm talking to. You had such a short, 2.5 year long stint, but an extremely consistent 2.5 years, right?
yeah,
There's no dip in performance anywhere, right? There's
no,
some missed lifts, but for the most part, almost always made lifts, right? Very, very consistent, very, very consistent increased rate of progress going into after that Kern in 2019, rounding out with the slingshot record breakers at the end of 2019, and then radio silence, right? So
yeah.
take me through those latter years with a mix of COVID and everything going on. You were on that roll. What was your plan after that slingshot record breakers? Did you have another plan? And where did things end up going?
Yeah, so straight from there, I got the invitation for Pro Raw in March. Uh, Everything was good, prep really good. Thought it was I would get even higher total. Got there, and that's where literally when COVID started. Comp got cancelled. Come back, and
You went all the way over there. You were in Australia.
yeah,
Fuck, man.
yeah. So 24 hours just to come back.
So what was it because you got there really early, or was it that was again the midst of all of it happening and the shutdown just started happening overnight?
Yeah, literally as I was going through into Australia, as I landed, they were literally saying the gates close in half an hour. And then the next day, woke up and yeah, everything's been cancelled, comps cancelled, uh, possibilities of closing borders, etc. So I had to just come back. I think all the guys got together and done like a gym thing, maybe, but I just didn't risk it. Come straight back, and yeah, and then everything was locked down in England as well.
It's funny because that at that in the exact same time frame because it was that weekend, right? It was a weekend that Pro Raw was on, but it was also the same weekend that the U.S. Arnold was on, right? And hybrid, we were set to have a booth, all this fucking shit, animal cage, everything. You know what I mean? We had been there the previous 2 years, amazing shit going down. And it was, I think, I'm pretty sure it was a Wednesday night. We were set to fly out Thursday to Columbus, Ohio. And Wednesday night, all this shit starts going off on the news of shutdowns, this, that, and the other. We're like, what the fuck? And then that night, they make posts that the Arnold was fucking canceled. And
Yeah,
we were just mind blown. I mean, like, Pro Raw is big, but the Arnold is fucking massive. That's canceling
yeah,
every single event that is going along with it, right? And everyone's like, no, no, this can't be possible. This can't be possible. And they ended up, because it was still so early on, and it was ultimately decided by each state here in the US. They canceled the convention. They canceled like 99% of everything, but they still had like the strongman event, right? And they still had a couple of the events, but no one was allowed to go in unless you were like a coach or an athlete. You were only allowed to go in those halls for the competition. So there's no spectators except for the people that somehow were able to get a pass. So we still went, and we still were able to watch the strongman competition. And then someone else threw like a little mini expo inside of a gym there, where because we had already shipped all of our merch. We had shipped
Oh, yeah.
tons and tons of merch over there to Columbus, Ohio, and a couple other brands had also. So we set up in this gym and did like a little event, and then we were able to keep sneaking in on and off to watch some of the strongman competition. But it's just crazy to think back on that time. It's crazy to think back on that, and that was like reality and that actually happened.
Yeah, it was like it was just such a buzzkill for me because I couldn't even train like at all. All gyms closed. We don't have many like houses with garages here, like with free weights. I didn't have any free weights. I had like a pair of dumbbells. And obviously like on my streak, it just hit me hard. And then I couldn't even train for like 2 years. Uh yeah, just lost everything.
So you took 2 years, even after COVID, you just kind of had taken that time completely off. You had kind of lost the momentum, lost the groove, and life took you elsewhere.
Yeah, I'm not sure how quick gyms opened for you guys, but it was at least a year.
I won't lie, here in Florida, we were literally only shut down for like 3 or 4 weeks.
Really?
It's fucked. It's really fucked. And but that's just Florida, because other like California and like I was speaking to Dan Green, Sparkle, they were like staying open like undercover. The fucking local authorities kept coming in, shutting them down. Like California was terrible for like 7 or 8 months, almost a year. But literally
Yeah.
Florida, they had some specific mandates that lasted for a couple of weeks, and then instantly things were allowed to open as long as there was social distancing and masks and this, that, and the other. We were very, very fortunate, and a lot of businesses in Florida were very, very fortunate, because in other states ran by other just governing bodies, it was completely different, and it was hard to see in that capacity how so many people were affected so differently.
Yeah. It was horrible. Just going from like lifting so much so often to doing like hundreds of press ups.
Right.
It's just for like a year. It was horrible. I remember they would open the gyms every now and then, like a tease for like a month here and a month there. But
And then the government would be like, no, actually, no, too many cases, shut it back down.
yeah, and then after that, like it's so hard to get back to where I was, and obviously with my record, like my total never went down, so I was always in my head like I can't come back until it's better than I was,
Right.
which is not a good mindset to have, but
And I get to see where
still,
it comes from, right? It's hard when you're competitive, when you've pushed yourself to a certain point. It's like there's different schools of thought. Some people are like, all right, I'm just going to warm up and get my feet wet again, get back on the platform. But is there a lot of purpose to that, especially if doing that is going to cost you money of traveling internationally, traveling here, this, that, and the other, to not know how you're going to be able to perform, right? So it's like a way back and forth. Do you need that? Do you need to do that? Because that's your push to then the next time be back to where you were, and it gives you kind of that drive. Um, so that's where it ultimately took you kind of a while to decide where to be at, right? Because we've talked about other competitions, here and in between.
yeah. So then after that year of not training, I just fell out of love of everything. Just got really down about it. Came off like all PED, lost so much weight, and I only really got back into training beginning of last year. So yeah, and I'm hoping this one's kind of more like a get me back into things, see where we're at.
Oh yeah. So take me through kind of how that looked, because I mean, a lot of other people were in that boat also. either shutdowns for a long time, then losing the motivation, then kind of coming back at it. And even I've had very extensive periods of like not training hardly at all or completely eliminating all compounds and kind of coming back. So, what did it look like for you kind of deciding you're going to make a comeback last year and reintroducing training and all of this under training yourself, right? Not having a coach to guide you, which I bet I'm sure you can think kind of in retrospect over these last couple of years. Maybe if you would have had some kind of guidance pushing you and understanding your body, maybe it would have gotten you back faster. Maybe it would have gotten you on a right track. Who knows? But what did it look like when you did kind of get on that track to start training again? Like, what was your training like? How long was it super defeating, so to speak, for before you kind of started climbing up and feeling like your old self?
Uh, it took a while to get back. It's weird because I used to be so much more explosive than I am now. I'm not sure if that's like the age
Old age,
difference.
bro.
But yeah, everything feels so different. It's sort of totally new now. Like, but yeah, it feels good. Feels good now. A lot more injuries and niggles than before. But yeah,
So looking again at your history and how, that kind of looked over those years, historically, you always competed as a 242, you always competed in knee wraps, right? Was that and you while you were competing, a lot of the times you were weighing in as a low 230, sometimes higher up. Were there weight cuts kind of involved with that, or were you just kind of always cruising at that weight?
uh, yeah, I was always around that weight. I'd always lose a good few pounds from just the nerves and the flying, and so I'd always weigh in a lot lighter than I would even think. But yeah, I think it's just nerves and lack of eating. Just I never have to like water cut or anything.
I'm that back when I was competing, I'm that exact same way. I get so nervous, I get so nauseous, I don't eat for days leading up to it. It's the absolute worst. I
Yeah.
hope for you, I pray for you that you've overcome that and you're able to eat some good, delicious Miami food. Um, so take us through kind of your this current present day Jimbo Cooper, right? You decided to sign up for the Ghost Clash months ago, right? Got confirmed, got on the roster, put your eyes, set your sights on that, hired a coach. What has training been looking like? How are you feeling going into it? Um, yeah.
So I'll be honest, it's been hit and miss, just with life really. So when I first signed up, a month or two after, had to move house. A lot of stuff happened, and recently I've moved house again. So that's two times since I've signed up. There's been a lot of stress, been a lot of inconsistent training, but comfortable now and just ready to smash the last few weeks. See
Hell
what
yeah. Well,
happens.
I mean, these last few weeks are the most important weeks, right? So
Yeah,
better to have gotten some of those stressors out before and be able to kind of attack these next couple of weeks to finish out your prep, right?
yeah, for sure.
So being realistic, I like to always ask, the people who I'm interviewing leading up to the Ghost Clash, what are some of your goals overall, knowing what you've done in the past, knowing where you are right now, and knowing where you potentially can be. What are your goals kind of coming into the meet?
So when I signed up, my goal was a 900, but now I'm thinking close to 900. Uh, yeah, we just have to see. I don't, I don't really know because for me, I used to know so much because I used to have it all in my head. But now it's down to the coach. It's kind of a bit like I'm just in the dark,
Well,
just
and,
doing.
and and that's good that you're open to that, right? To let him make kind of the calculated decisions, understanding you, your body, how you're
Yeah,
performing, and ultimately to kind of you want to come out injury free. You want to come out the other side healthy, driven, right? Driven and
yeah,
hungry, and feeling good. And that's helpful when you have a coach, and especially coming in a position where you had so much time off and you're trying to rebuild yourself back up, right? You don't want to go so balls to the wall where you end with a 3-9 or 4-9 performance and then you're completely demotivated, as opposed to being, finishing 8 for 9, 9 for 9 and being hungry after it, right?
Yeah, that's what I think the goal more is, more than the weight side of things. It is more I want to put on a good performance and 9 for 9 if I can.
Hell yeah, man. I love it. So, Miami, 4.5 weeks from now, right? I'm super stoked to have you over here. Super stoked to have you on the platform. Sign us out. Let everyone know where they could find you on social media, where they can see your fucking dapper swag, and they'll see you on the platform soon.
Yeah, so it's just Jimbo Cooper on Instagram. I don't really use anything else. But yeah, I'll see you there. I'm buzzing to come.
Hell yeah, man. Safe travels to you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the WRPF podcast.